A big focus, the US federal court has ruled that Donald Trump does not have the authority under economic emergency legislation to impose sweeping global tariffs. Now, this is a big deal, as you can imagine, because the US Court of International Trade's ruling could bring the administration's trade war to a screeching halt. By blocking entirely most categories of tariffs, the court effectively wiped out most of the regime Trump put in place since taking office, and the court, ruling in two separate cases, issued a summary judgment throwing out all the tariffs Trump imposed under the International Emergency Economic Powers Act. By the way, in case you didn't know, Trump used the 1977 law, which had never been invoked in a tariff situation, to unilaterally impose sweeping trade levies worldwide. The three judges, by the way, who heard the case were Reagan, Obama, and Trump appointees. And the White House Deputy Chief of Staff, Stephen Miller, has responded now to the ruling, saying the judicial coup is out of control. Tony Waterman has further details for you.
When Donald Trump enacted these sweeping global tariffs, he claimed he had the power to do so because the U.S. was facing a number of threats, economic and otherwise. And he cited trade deficits with many countries and the influx of drugs into the U.S. as proof. But the U.S. Court of International Trade in New York didn't buy it. They say that he overstepped his authority when invoking emergency powers to justify the tariffs, partly because these so-called threats, the trade deficits and drugs, aren't anything new or extraordinary as the law requires. These are issues that the country has been facing for decades. So invoking emergency powers, they say, is illegal. Now, this ruling could grind these tariffs to a halt, although it's not exactly clear when that may happen. But if it does, it would include 30% tariffs on China and that 10% universal tariff on most goods coming into the U.S., including goods from India. It's also unclear at this point what happens to the trade negotiations the White House has been conducting with dozens of countries, including India. There had been talk that part of that deal could be wrapped up as soon as next month. The Trump administration, though, has arguably lost a lot of leverage with this ruling in those negotiations.
And in news just coming in, the United States will aggressively revoke the visas of Chinese students studying in the country. This is what Secretary of State Marco Rubio has announced as the Trump administration continues its crackdown on foreign students enrolled at higher education institutions in the United States. Mr. Rubio announced a shock move in a post on X and a State Department statement published late on Wednesday titled, "New Visa Policies Put America First, Not China." You must note that China is actually the second largest country of origin for international students in the United States, behind only India. Meanwhile, Marco Rubio has also announced visa restrictions on foreign officials and other individuals who censor Americans, including those who target American tech companies, as the Trump administration steps up a confrontation with other countries over their social media policies. Now, without giving specifics, Mr. Rubio cited instances of foreign governments censoring protected speech in the US, saying it was unacceptable for foreigners to issue or threaten arrest warrants on US citizens or US residents for social media posts on American platforms. This is according to the latest statement. For further clarity, let's go across to senior journalist Ray Locker, who joins us on NDTV at the moment. Ray, really appreciate your time as always. Marco Rubio is talking about visa bans on foreign nationals for censoring Americans. That is a strong charge, Ray, but how do they define censorship here? Is it government pressure, takedown notices, or even content moderation by foreign platforms?
Well, your guess is as good as mine. It could be just about anything. I mean, this administration has been quick to claim censorship about anything, whether it's some kind of content moderation. Trump said he was being censored by Twitter when it was owned by its previous ownership, because he was spreading obvious disinformation. And there's no right to be on Twitter or any other social media platform. So it's hard to tell what this really means. And as we've seen throughout the history of this administration, the second Trump term, anything can happen. Something is a big deal one day, it disappears the next, or a court says it's not legal. And I mean, look at what happened with all these tariffs. Poof, they could be gone.
But But then, Ray, who exactly does this policy seem to target? Are Indians or tech companies on Washington's radar? Or do you sense this is a larger message aimed at China and Europe?
Well, I think the larger message is if we don't like you, we are going to do things to cause you problems. And so the challenge is not to be on Trump's bad side. So people are doing things like preemptively doing what they think Trump wants. And we've seen that time and time again. We've seen it with all these big law firms that have cut deals with the administration to avoid an executive order, when in reality, all of those executive orders against law firms have failed. They've been tossed out by the courts.
Right.
So it's a threat. He's wielding a big stick to get what he wants.
But then, Ray, any sense of hypocrisy being called out here? Because after all, the US itself is cracking down on university speech, as we've noticed with Harvard, and student political affiliations. So then, is this really about freedom or selective outrage?
Selective outrage. I mean, it's all part of Trump doing what he wants, when he wants, to whoever he wants to do it to.
Right.
I mean, there is no consistency. I think we've seen that, since January 20th. One day it's one thing, the next day it's something else. And so he's doing it because he wants to. It keeps people off balance. It helps him get what he wants, which could be anything at any given time.
Well, Ray, really appreciate your time and your views as always. Thank you so much for making time for us and joining us on the show.
My pleasure.
Meanwhile, as I briefly mentioned, Harvard, Donald Trump has once again targeted the university, saying that too many international students are being allowed in. He said that the number of foreign students at Harvard should be reduced to about 15% so that more American students can get a chance to study at the prestigious institution. Harvard, by the way, has around 27% foreign students, and according to Trump, reducing this figure would increase opportunities for American students who wish to attend prestigious universities like Harvard. But as we have been covering, the future of international students at Harvard University, which is America's oldest, wealthiest, and arguably most prestigious academic institution, has been thrown into turmoil. The Trump administration's recent move has sparked outrage, panic, and also legal challenges. Take a look at this report of NDTV's From Ground Zero as the Trump versus Harvard row intensifies.
A very exciting time at this time of the year in Harvard, with all the various graduation ceremonies and commencements dotted all across the large campus. We spoke to a range of students, international, American, from different fields, and one word that kept coming up again and again was surreal. They feel the pressure on Harvard right now, and all the threats that Harvard faces from the US administration are making the atmosphere surreal. They're concerned about the individual future, but they also maintain a lot of optimism and hope in this institution overall that they think will stand any challenge. We're here at Harvard University, the epicenter of a growing crisis in education in America, and we're joined now by Sully, who actually recently graduated just now from a ceremony. Congratulations, first and foremost. How does it feel to graduate from Harvard?
Honestly, it's very exciting. I mean, it's a flux of emotions. I feel like I get a lot of, I get a lot of self-criticizing thoughts about how I could have finished the school if I were to repeat it again. But it's a relief because these 4 years here were super demanding, and I'm very glad to just be out of here, honestly. So it's nice to be here.
Sully, tell us what you studied, and also what was your experience like at Harvard?
Yeah. So I'm studying economics. I'm an undergrad. Finished with an economics degree. The experience was nice. I think as a liberal arts school, it's one of the most demanding and one of the most popular degrees here. Econ, there's a lot of athletes taking this degree, taking this path. So I think there were a lot of challenges. As someone who grew up outside of the U.S., outside of the Western, culture and stuff, it was some sort of a culture shock for me first. But I think as a more of a liberal space here, it was pretty welcoming. The presence of international students isn't like very large per se at Harvard College. I think it's about 10-15%. It's more for the whole Harvard University stuff, but Harvard College, students from Harvard College as internationals are not very, there isn't just a lot of us, but it was fine. I liked it.
Yeah.
I'm very grateful.
Yeah, and you've come here on an international visa, a student visa or a scholar visa. And as you know in the news now, that is all under question. Harvard has gone to court to try and retain the right to allow international students. How does it feel now to graduate at this time as an international student? Also tell us where you're from and what was your experience with the student visa?
Sure. Yeah, so I'm from Kazakhstan, a country in Central Asia. The experience with the student visa, it's actually funny because I just flew back to the US a few days ago. So when I got the news, I was actually out of the country, and if the Trump administration's change took effect immediately, that would mean that my student visa would be revoked. But it was fun because, like, in the end, they froze the action, I think, and then I just passed the border control and stuff. It was fine, no issues. I know they're having a hearing on the 29th, which is actually tomorrow. Tomorrow, yeah, the commencement. We'll see how it goes next. As someone who's graduating now, I think it doesn't affect me as much as other students. I know that other students were suffering a lot, especially the ones that just got in. Harvard actually sent out some emails a few months ago for newly admitted students that they should matriculate to other schools as well, just in case they have like visa complications.
Well, meanwhile, billionaire Elon Musk has said that his time leading Donald Trump's cost-cutting task force is coming to an end. He was designated as a special government employee, which allows him to work a government job for 130 days each year. And measured from Trump's inauguration on the 20th of January, he would hit that limit towards the end of May as expected. But Elon Musk thanked Trump for the role in a post on X and said that he believed the cost-cutting agency would become a way of life throughout government. Tony Waterman joins us with the latest on this as well.
Trump is also losing a key advisor, Elon Musk announcing on X that he is leaving the administration. The billionaire has a special government employee designation, so he can only work 130 days each year. So that's going to give him until the end of May. But Musk has really been facing a lot of criticism for his role at DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency. He's been slashing jobs in the name of cost savings, and his exit comes as the bromance between him and Donald Trump appears to be fraying. Just this week, he criticized Trump's economic policy, which includes these trillion-dollar tax breaks, which will add to the national deficit. Tony Waterman, NDTV, Washington.
Meanwhile, Donald Trump has said that Canada will have to pay $61 billion to benefit from the US's Golden Dome missile defense system if it remains what he called a separate but unequal nation. Writing on his Truth Social platform, the US president added that Ottawa would not have to pay anything if it became our cherished 51st state. Maha Siddiqui has been tracking the final developments for us. She joins us live from Vancouver at the moment. Maha, so Trump saying that Canada will have to pay $61 billion for the Golden Dome or become his 51st state. How is this threat being perceived in Canada's political circles?
Well, this comes, interestingly, a day after King Charles III made a statement from the parliament, a speech from the throne, to be precise, about what King Charles III did in Ottawa. And that was, in fact, to send a message to the United States about the sovereignty of Canada. And this statement by Donald Trump saying that either Canada pays $61 billion for joining the Golden Dome or becomes the 51st state of the United States comes in the backdrop of that speech from the throne by King Charles III. So this is an interesting timing, coming at a time when Donald Trump had not mentioned or referred to Canada as the 51st state from the 6th of May, really, since the last conversation happened between Prime Minister Mark Carney and US President Donald Trump. But today is also the day when a federal court looking at international trade in the United States has also paused the punishing tariffs, the Liberation Day tariffs that are also called the Trump tariffs for some time, though the Trump administration has challenged that order. But that is also very closely linked to the friction between Canada and the United States, because the Canadians believe that economic coercion is being used as a means to weaken Canada and carry out the annexation. So all this very closely linked, and all these developments taking place within the last 24 hours. Parmeshwar.
Maha, as always, thank you so much for breaking down the latest details for us. In other crucial news, Saudi Arabia has announced that the annual Hajj pilgrimage will begin on the 4th of June after officials have confirmed the sighting of the crescent moon. This year, the day of Arafah will fall on the 5th of June, followed by Eid al-Adha on the 6th of June, according to Saudi authorities. Well, news and updates continue in a moment, right after this very short commercial break. Do stay tuned. And with reports of acute suffering in Gaza, well, EU leaders have toughened their tone on Israel, but the bloc will need to bridge deep divisions to move from rhetoric to a real-world impact, as you know. The shift has been most noticeable from key power Germany, one of Israel's staunchest allies in the world, its loyalty rooted in the trauma of the Holocaust. But Berlin's stern new tone found an echo in Brussels, where the German head of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, denounced as abhorrent and disproportionate the past days' attacks on civilian infrastructure in Gaza. In fact, an EU top diplomat has said that Israeli strikes in Gaza go beyond what is necessary to fight Hamas, as the death toll there continues to mount.
Hello. Good morning. I'm fine. So, thank you so much.
Meanwhile, Israeli Prime Minister has announced that Mohammed Sinwar, the Hamas Gaza chief and the younger brother of the group's leader, Yahya Sinwar, has been eliminated. This comes 7 months after Yahya was killed by a single gunshot to the head during an hour-long firefight with trainee soldiers on a routine operation in the Rafah area of the Gaza Strip. But will this now weaken Hamas's hold or further fragment its leadership across Gaza? Well, listen in to Trent Murray's report from Tel Aviv.
Well, the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has said the leader of Hamas in Gaza has been killed by the Israeli Defense Forces. Now, this comment came during a fairly heated debate inside the Israeli parliament. He made that announcement to other lawmakers, and it follows rumblings and rumours here in Israel about the whereabouts of Mohammed Sinwar, the leader of Hamas. Now, back on May 13th, the IDF launched an airstrike on what they said at the time was an underground command and control centre in a bunker underneath the hospital, the European hospital, I should say, in the Gaza Strip. Now, at the time, the rumours were here that the target was Mohammed Sinwar, the leader of Hamas, but there had been no official confirmation from the Israelis. Well, clearly, that has now all changed with this official announcement from the Prime Minister. Mohammed Sinwar had only been in the job for less than a year. He took over the leadership of the group after his brother, Yahya Sinwar, the longtime leader, was killed in a separate Israeli airstrike last year. So it appears, based on what we are hearing from the Prime Minister now, that the group is once again having to find a new leader after coming under incredible pressure from the Israeli Defense Forces, particularly in recent months that they've stepped up their operations. I should just mention also that IDF sources are telling some Israeli media outlets that they're still not 100% sure that he was killed in this strike, but clearly the Prime Minister and his intelligence is believing that this indeed is the case. We've not had any official word yet, though, from Hamas. Trent Murray for NDTV in Tel Aviv, Israel.
Vishal Vivek has also been tracking all the developments very closely. He joins us over the phone line at the moment. Vishal, so now the big question remains whether this will weaken Hamas's hold or further fragment its leadership across Gaza, right?
That's exactly right, Parmeshwar. And Hamas's leadership has already been fragmented, and he was one of the most senior figures. He was the most senior figure in Gaza for Hamas, and he has been killed. That's been confirmed by Israel. But Hamas is yet to comment on it. Just a few days ago, reports had been coming in that said that there is the likelihood that Mohammed Sinwar could have been killed in an airstrike, but Israel had refrained from confirming it. And then came the comment from Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu last night, which confirmed the leader's demise. The nature of attack has not been revealed, but it was reported just a few days ago that it could be a possibility that one of the big hospitals in Gaza was bombed to attack Sinwar. And he was believed to be alone at the time of the attack because many Gaza leaders in the past have been, accused of using human shields. Right. So that is what IDF did. It located Sinwar when he was reportedly not with any hostages, and that's the opportunity the IDF used to eliminate one of the biggest leaders of Hamas in Gaza.
Well, as always, Vishal, thank you so much for joining us with the latest details. Benjamin Netanyahu has announced that Mohammed Sinwar, the Hamas Gaza chief, has been eliminated. And this comes 7 months after Yahya was killed by a single gunshot on a routine operation in the Rafah area of the Gaza Strip. We'll keep tracking the latest for you, as always, regarding Israel and Hamas as well. Just like to thank you for investing your time in watching this edition of The World 24/7. As always, we'll keep tracking the latest updates for you. Do stay tuned.